Tonight, a dramatic airport altercation. A Canadian couple denied boarding.
Delete all pictures.
The threat delivered by an Air Transat employee.
When he allowed everyone else to check in, that's when I started taking videos.
And how it all played out in court. What Pierre Poilievre is saying about his leadership style days after two Conservative MP departures. And the White House plays defense after an email bombshell.
These emails prove absolutely nothing.
What they reveal and how they're drawing fresh scrutiny on the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a scathing legal ruling for a major Canadian airline and the newlyweds praised by an Ontario judge for documenting a customer service experience he called terrible. They took video of the interaction on their phone. That's when Air Transat prevented them from boarding their flight home unless they deleted the recording. CTV's Adrian Gabriel on how their ultimate decision impacted the courts.
We want to go home, that's all.
On March 31st, 2024, Madhu Haridas and his wife arrived at Punta Cana International Airport to check in for their Air Transat flight home to Toronto. The couple were finishing their first vacation away as husband and wife.
We had fun except the last day.
The last day?
Yeah.
Not so fun?
Not so fun.
That's because when they arrived at the airport, this Air Transat check-in supervisor refused to check them in unless the couple erased video they had taken of their customer service experience.
I need delete all pictures and all video for check-in.
When they first arrived at the airport, they asked an Air Transat agent where they should line up. Haridas's wife was traveling with an Indian passport and a Canadian work permit.
He first yelled and told to stand behind a red line. So there was a red marker on the floor. So when he yelled, immediately we stood behind.
The couple say they asked the agent to stop shouting. It was during that exchange he first refused to check them in.
When he allowed everyone else to check in, that's when I started taking videos.
Then came the ultimatum.
Okay.
Delete all information with meeting your cell phone.
It is a form of extortion or blackmailing, essentially.
Never allowed to check in, they had to purchase expensive same-day tickets with another airline. They took their case to small claims court. In a written decision, an Ontario judge found that Air Transat's conduct was effectively egregious. The judge applauded the couple for taking video, which assisted him in reaching his decision.
There is no right for the airline or any airline employee to privacy that would deprive you of documenting how they are treating you.
As a passenger, you should know your rights before you travel.
Air Transat has declined to comment on the court's ruling.
The small claims court ruling resulted in Air Transat having to pay $7,000 to the couple, who also say their payment included an email from the airline congratulating them on their victory. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Mississauga, Ontario.
And late tonight, the longest government shutdown in U.S. history is officially over.
The yeas are 222, the nays are 209. The bill is passed.
This evening, the House approved a funding bill. The historic 43-day shutdown has impacted federal workers who haven't been paid, travelers stranded at airports, and families lined up at food banks. Donald Trump has just signed the bill to end the shutdown and reopen the government. What has also reopened is new scrutiny over the relationship between Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. 20,000 pages of documents from the convicted sex offender's estate were made public today, including emails that mentioned Donald Trump. Here's CTV's Washington bureau chief, Joy Malbin.
The private emails are straight from convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein discussing his relationship with Donald Trump. In 2011, 3 years after Epstein pleaded guilty to sex crimes involving a minor in Florida, he wrote to his now convicted partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, "I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim, spend hours at my house with him. He was never once mentioned, police chief, etc." Maxwell responded, "I've been thinking about that." That victim, Republicans say, was Virginia Giuffre, who said she never witnessed wrongdoing by Trump. In her memoir, she described being recruited from Trump's Mar-a-Lago club by Ghislaine Maxwell and trafficked to rich and powerful men, including the former Prince Andrew. In 2019, while President Trump was running for re-election, Epstein wrote author Michael Wolff, taking issue with Trump's claim that he kicked Epstein out of his club, alleging Trump knew about Epstein's illegal behavior. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Maxwell, who's reportedly applying for clemency, told the president's lawyer in July she never saw Trump at Epstein's home.
I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way.
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong.
Tonight, the president lashed out on Truth Social, calling it all a Democratic hoax, as a bipartisan group of lawmakers push for all of the highly sensitive Epstein records to be made public. Omar?
All right, Joy, thank you. Pierre Poilievre held his first media conference since learning he will lose 2 MPs, one who defected to the Liberals and one who is resigning. The Conservative leader was asked whether he has reflected on his leadership style.
No, my plan is to continue to lead and be the only leader in the country that's fighting for an affordable Canada, where our people who work hard can afford a home and food. That is my agenda.
And joining us now is CTV's chief political correspondent, Vassy Kapelos. Vassy, so based on that answer, it appears no plans for a pivot for the Conservative leaders. Does that kind of messaging help or hurt him ahead of the January leadership review?
I think it's unsurprising, given that leadership review is just a few months away. I don't think, many leaders concede reflection until they're on their way out. And so I'm not surprised by the message. But the thing is that leadership review is not the end of the road for Mr. Poilievre. If he succeeds in passing that review, he will once again have to face the Canadian electorate. And if you take a deep dive into public opinion polling right now, while the parties, the Conservatives and the Liberals, are neck and neck in those polls, once you look closer at the personal numbers for Mr. Carney and Mr. Poilievre, it is clear that Mr. Poilievre significantly trails Mr. Carney. And that is something that likely will ultimately have to weigh on the type of tone that we can expect from Mr. Poilievre. I think today was kind of peak Poilievre. Whether that continues past January, should he survive, until then, as leader of the party, is another question, Omar.
All right, Vassy, thank you. Poilievre also raised concerns by Liberal MP on the new federal budget. Nate Erskine-Smith, a Toronto MP, posted a 4-minute video criticizing his party's plan.
But fairly, it does not live up to its promise of generational investments. I joked that it was a pretty good progressive conservative budget. I joked. I'll get flack for that. It's a joke. But hey, some conservatives agree.
And this is where the message finished, showing the floor crossing of former Conservative MP Chris D'Entremont. Despite his concerns, Erskine-Smith says it's not a budget that should throw the country into an election. Prime Minister Mark Carney will unveil the second round of major projects tomorrow, set to be fast-tracked by the federal government with the goal of boosting the economy. But we can tell you about some of the projects that made the cut tonight. Here's CTV's Abigail Beeman.
Silism's LNG is charting a new course.
A promotional video illustrates the Silism's mobile LNG facility, expected to be on the Prime Minister's new major projects list, unveiled in Prince Rupert Thursday.
North America's shortest marine route to growing Asian markets.
CTV News has learned the list is also expected to include a hydroelectric project in Iqaluit, the Sisson mine in New Brunswick, and the Crawford nickel mine in northern Ontario.
50% of global nickel comes from Indonesia. The Chinese own 75% of those mines. We have to disrupt their stranglehold of the supply chain.
Mark Carney has faced criticism for picking projects already in various stages of development.
He's not got shovels in the ground on anything.
In 2017, Dominic LeBlanc said construction on the Sisson mine should start the next year.
I think that North America and Canada benefit strategically.
That project has been talked about for decades. Today, the defense minister was asked about the U.S.'s nearly $21 million recent contribution to it.
Our Defense Department is cooperating with our Department of Natural Resources in order to help, first of all, identify the extent of critical minerals in Canada.
These types of developments can carry dire and very expensive long-term liabilities. Short-term needs are very real in the Canadian economy. Long-term thinking also is needed.
As for the status of an east-west pipeline pushed by Alberta, there is no word it would be on tomorrow's list. Danielle Smith has said she's in daily negotiations with Ottawa, hopeful that a memorandum of understanding will be ready by Sunday's Grey Cup or shortly after. Omar?
All right, we'll see if it's on the list. Abigail, thank you. Foreign ministers from 7 wealthy countries met face-to-face in Ontario today, but the focus was on discussions on the sidelines of that summit between Canada and the U.S. CTV's Rachel Aiello tells us how it went.
Are you planning to resume trade talks between your countries?
Thank you very much for this.
Holding the highest level one-on-one meeting between the two countries since U.S. President Donald Trump terminated trade talks, Canada's Foreign Minister Anita Anand decided to leave that file off the table today when she sat down with the U.S. Secretary of State, later saying she was focused on using her time with Marco Rubio on the sidelines of the G7 summit to tackle other pressing foreign policy concerns.
So you can then confirm that you had this one-on-one, face-to-face opportunity with an American counterpart, and you didn't take that chance to try to have a conversation about resuming trade talks when so much of the Canadian economy is relying on it.
As Foreign Minister, my responsibility is to represent Canada on the world stage on these and other issues. That's exactly what I did, and I'm respectful of my colleagues' portfolios, one of whom is Dominic LeBlanc, whose role it is to cover Canada-U.S. trade.
Rubio's readout of the bilateral meeting also didn't mention trade, but did reference discussing reinforcing supply chains. Today, Canada also leveled new sanctions targeting Russia's drone program and LNG entities. As for what the G7 foreign ministers and other participating nations were able to agree on at this summit, affirming support for Trump's Gaza peace plan, addressing maritime security concerns, and advancing critical mineral development. Omar?
All right, Rachel, thank you. Canada's main stock index hit a record high today. The TSX shot up more than 400 points, closing well over the 30,000 mark after some positive corporate earnings reports. A controversial new law in Quebec is driving out doctors at a time when more than 1.5 million people in the province are searching for a family physician. CTV's Judy Trin on where they are going and why.
As my last gasp attempt.
Anesthesiologist Trevor Hennessy plans to move his practice out of Quebec after the CAQ government passed Bill 2. The new law links pay to performance but doesn't provide more resources.
This is the first time that we've been called parasites and greedy and lazy when this past Monday and Friday, 9 out of my 12 operating rooms are closed from lack of nurses, and yet we're being blamed for the issues in the system.
Bill 2 takes effect in January. It demands doctors see 75% of ER patients within 90 minutes and perform 97% of surgeries within 1 year of assessment. Not meeting targets could result in pay being clawed back. Physicians face potential fines of $20,000 a day for protesting the bill. That didn't stop thousands from demonstrating on the weekend. Doctors have been without contracts since 2023.
Our government has chosen to forcefully apply a law on us that goes against all of our rights.
In the past month, more than 350 Quebec doctors have applied for licenses to work in the neighboring provinces of New Brunswick and Ontario.
So we welcome everyone. I'm not targeting Quebec doctors. If they call me, I return their call.
Clinics are facing closure and leaving patients in the lurch.
This is like a family for me here. The people are very kind and generous.
About 2 million Quebec residents do not have a family doctor. When asked to respond to the exodus of physicians from the province, Quebec's health minister dodged reporters with a no comment. Omar.
All right, Judy, thank you. Police in Calgary say a family finally has some answers in a missing persons cold case that began more than 50 years ago.
Anna was reported missing in August of 1966 after she was last seen boarding a bus from Calgary.
2 years later, some items belonging to Anna Sylvia Just were found in the Nevada desert. Last year, Calgary investigators were able to track down her 97-year-old sister.
One of the first things she says to them is like, "Are you here because of Sylvia?" So that's 50 years that she's been waiting to hear.
Police got a DNA sample from her, which matched human remains discovered in 1970 in Nevada, but were never identified. Coming up.
It wasn't just like a rape.
It was like torture and humiliation.
How a survivor fought back to expose the identity of her perpetrator. We can now name a Canadian man for his role in a global network of predators who drug and film the sexual assault of their partners. In part 2 of a W5 exclusive, Avery Haynes tells us the story of a survivor who unknowingly lived through years of abuse, but ultimately fought back with a lawsuit to expose her perpetrator's identity.
A process server drives up to Dorchester Prison in New Brunswick. In that black case, a $2 million civil suit being hand-delivered to an inmate whose name has been kept secret until now.
Hey, what's up, guys? I just figured I'd give you guys a quick little update.
Jonathan Beaulieu, a 37-year-old bodybuilder from Moncton, sentenced to 16 years after pleading guilty to horrific crimes against 3 former partners who he secretly drugged and sexually assaulted, crimes he videotaped and shared within a global network of online predators. In the criminal case in 2024, his name was sealed by a publication ban. But that protection does not extend to this civil suit filed by a woman we called Melanie in our documentary Sleeping with the Enemy, a former girlfriend whom he secretly drugged and videotaped for years when she was a teen.
It wasn't just like rape. It was like torture and humiliation.
Melanie's lawyer is Gerald Chapur.
I have practiced law for 40 years. I have never seen this kind of horrific assault.
Beaulieu could be released from jail as early as 2029, and Melanie wants his name out before he gets out.
I don't think that someone like that stops. Future people that he will be in contact with deserve to know that he's a risk.
The statement of claim points out that the assault photos and videos are still being distributed and seeks an injunction against porn websites requiring immediate removal from all platforms.
Individuals have discovered her because of the videotapes being out there. So one, it's just pure personal safety. The second is to get the horrific information off. She will not feel the end of the pain until it is gone.
The videos of Melanie's abuse have been shared extensively within the online network. The civil suit also seeks legal recourse to go after those who possess or share those videos.
Obviously, all those people are very sick and disturbed individuals.
Along with now being able to identify Jonathan Beaulieu, the lawsuit details how the assaults have left Melanie with extreme fear and severe psychological trauma.
It's sickening and super fearful that I may never be safe.
Avery Haynes, CTV News, Toronto.
And in part 3 tomorrow, the former wife of an accused sexual predator is demanding charges be laid in the alleged drugging of their young daughter. Still ahead, why a short-term rental company kicked people out into the cold. A nightmare for people visiting Montreal who were suddenly evicted from apartment hotels after the company declared bankruptcy. Sonder rents out apartments for short-term stays and was working with Marriott hotels until Marriott abruptly pulled the plug on their agreement this weekend, saying Sonder defaulted.
We weren't notified, at least we weren't aware that we were notified because on vacation, who's checking their emails. So we were just enjoying the amenities and another guest had told us, hey, did you see that email?
Guests were left scrambling to find other last-minute accommodations on their own. New numbers show Canadian travelers are keeping their distance from the United States. In October, the number of Canadians who returned by car from the U.S. fell to 1.4 million, down more than 30% from the same period last year. And Canadians coming home by air plummeted almost 25%. The cause, trade tensions and a weak Canadian dollar. But the tensions did not get in the way of a festive tradition today. The giant white spruce was cut down in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, and is destined for Boston. Nova Scotia sends the gift to Boston every year for its help with doctors and medical supplies in the aftermath of the Halifax explosion. The disaster killed almost 2,000 people in December 1917. But Boston's mayor wasn't sure her city would get a Canadian tree this year.
There was a moment where I wondered if Nova Scotia was still going to want to continue this tradition. I picked up the phone and called Premier Houston, and we had a lovely conversation and reaffirmed that this friendship dates back over a century and will continue on long after a particular presidential administration or regime.
Still ahead, the scintillating light show in the sky is giving Canadians a second shot to catch a glimpse. Most of Canada has another chance to see the Northern Lights tonight. The forecast shows a high probability of aurora activity after a spectacular show last night. Here's CTV's Paul Hollingsworth.
When Tiffany Fields looked outside late last night, she saw the dazzling display of colors as the Northern Lights covered the Nova Scotia sky.
It was just pink and red and glowing, and it was incredible.
Fields is an astronomy technician at St. Mary's University and was ready to capture the moment with countless pictures.
And I could see the faint green glow in my camera, and I was just like so excited.
So was Mark Perkin, who lives on Nova Scotia's Big Tantcook Island and shot this photo.
We can walk out our front door and it's right there. You get the ocean, you get the sky, and you don't know where one ends and the other begins.
The Northern Lights happen when electrically charged particles from the sun collide with gases in the Earth's atmosphere. These solar storms are usually must-see moments for those lucky enough to have a clear view.
And everybody goes outside, takes time out of their day to see it. It's very unifying, and it reminds us that we are just on this little planet going around a sun in this solar system, and the universe is much bigger and very, very beautiful.
This geomagnetic storm was so strong, so powerful. People saw the Northern Lights here in Canada, as far south as Florida, through the state of Texas, on the west coast in California, and in numerous states in the U.S. Midwest.
It was very strong, produced a lot of colors in the sky that were very high in altitude.
Fields says the next solar storm coming tonight could be just as stunning as Tuesday's experience. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
A celestial marvel. That's a snapshot of this Wednesday. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night and see you tomorrow.